All right. Hey, everybody. Not former USDSer, but current riser. Excited to be here, share a case study from a specific day in U.S. military operations where we were able to execute, I'll say we were like in the shit. No. We were in like a high-rise office building in Boston, but we were doing great work to support the people that were on the front lines. We're a DevOps shop out of Kessel Run. I know Brian said he wanted to pass on telling the Kessel Run story because he's told it too many times, so he asked me to tell it. And as a DevOps shop executing XP, we firmly believed in user-centered design, and we really were building a user trust model around this. And there's something beautiful about getting so embedded with your users and gaining the trust of your users through your practices. The consistency, transparency, frequency with which you contact your users is really what brings them along on the journey. But the real special thing that happened there as kind of a secondary benefit is that our dev teams actually began to believe that they were part of the mission operations. And they didn't even just believe it, they were. We actually were pioneering what a forward deployed engineer looks like. We called them LNOs at the time, and we sent people forward that were operating in the operations centers where the decisions were getting made for air operations in what I'll say is U.S. Central Command, the Middle East at the time. And so this is August 2021, the case study that we're going to talk about. As we had people forward, our forward deployed engineers in the operations center, we get a call on the weekend before August 24th, so let's call it August 22nd. And it said, things are spinning up around here. We're not exactly sure what's about to happen. But it's a sense of urgency, and we think we should send more people forward. So at the time, I was the deputy commander of the organization. Our commander gave me a call, and he said, let's pick a few people to send forward so that we have a better team on the ground. 2 days later, that hypothesis came true, and we ran into Operation Allies Refuge. People probably remember this photo. It was all over the media at the time. We were evacuating non-combatants from Afghanistan as the Taliban was taking back over their reign of the country, and we needed to move allies and refugees out as fast as possible. This particular flight had over 800 refugees on it, setting a record for passengers on an aircraft. This was a US C-17 taking off out of Kabul, headed for Qatar. So, the software we had built at the time was there to handle air campaign management. And so it would handle the scheduling and tasking of all the flights that were going on in the Middle East. And for the previous 20 years, they had been handling precision strike mission, where they were planning like 12 to 26 flights a day was the standard loadout. So the software could handle that, and that's what it was built for. But now, no notice, largest airlift in US history. And so we went from 12 to 26 flights a day to over 200 flights on August 24th, 2021. And on that day, we broke the software. It couldn't handle the loadout at all. So as the mission changed, we needed to prove that what we were doing, what we had set out to prove, that continuous delivery allows us to update the software that the mission operators need at the speed with which their mission is changing, that we could actually accomplish this. Most of the braking was happening on the back end, of course, right? Everything's choking on the actual load that's being handled because instead of planning 12 to 26 missions per day, we're handling over 200 missions on this particular day. That software was called Kratos, Kessel Run All-Domain Operations Suite. And you can see across this chronology, it broke several times throughout the day. So we had the 4 a.m. call. 4 a.m. local time in Boston. So we got our teams up. They scrambled into the office where we had a classified facility. They could run updates. They could smoke test what was being deployed. Across this day, we also had people in Virginia that had to get up in the IT ops section where we were running our platform. They had to do the same thing because most of this breakage was happening with load on the back end. And so they did all the things that you think would be necessary to get your software operating more smoothly instead of having what was these load times on the front end that were untenable for the operators. 3 to 6 minutes when they'd plan a specific mission for it to show up and actually be able to be executed on the tasking order. So each one of these calls signifies an outage that occurred, and the trust was built. Their commander told us in the back end of this, like, we asked, why did you stick with this software instead of bailing out for the legacy system or going back to manual and getting on the whiteboards and doing some kind of manual Excel file kind of scheduling on your own? And they believed in us. They believed because we had people in their operations center. They believed because we had developed enough of a relationship with them that they knew that we were going to be able to fight through this and get to a successful back end with them. So they did all the things that they could do to fix this from the back end IT ops team, specifically on platform for the most part. They did kind of all of the things that you would think of to free up space. They cleaned bin files for disk space. They scaled CPUs, created a separate instance to handle more traffic. And all of that got the software to a place where it was now running with only seconds of latency. And so proved out to be successful for the operators on the ground. They could now plan the amount of flights that they needed to and be able to keep operations running where we could still continue to evacuate hundreds of refugees per flight and handling over 150 flights a day over this 17-day period. But what was really special about it is that we were executing real DevOps. So not just the ops side of the house that was fixing things, but the whole mission had changed. It's no longer precision strike, it's now massive airlift. And so there was like data fields and attributes that needed to be accounted for. And so the dev teams got involved too. They also scrambled into the office and started building new features and shipping them. Within this time that we're getting the software running again, this 12-hour period, 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the single day, we also shipped new features. Things that wouldn't show up in a requirements document, but show up when the operations change like this so quickly. A good example is we had to issue feature flags in there for nation states that were involved. Over 30 countries were involved in this evacuation effort. Many of them flying their aircraft and doing refueling pairing. Part of our tasking was matching aircraft to the tankers that they'd be refueling from. When you have 30 countries involved, not all of them love each other, even though we're all allies and all in NATO. Specifically, the Greeks and the Turks would not allow their aircraft to be a part of the same missions. That's not going to get written in a requirements document anywhere. You're only going to learn that on the ground. And so that information flowed back to us. We were able to update the software to handle nation flags in this exact same 12-hour period while we're actually just debugging the load time to get it to work properly. Another thing we had to put into the software real quick is passenger counts. That when you're flying precision strike, a lot of times you're using drones, so passengers is 0. Sometimes you're using fighters and bombers, passengers is like on the one-hand count. But now we're handling, up to 800 passengers on an aircraft. And so another feature that had to be slid in. This was really impressive for us. It was a great day for Kessel Run. I don't know if it was a great day for the nation. I'm not here to talk about that necessarily. But what we set out to prove was that continuous delivery could help you execute software delivery that's going to keep up with a changing mission at the speed with which the mission operators need the software to keep up, so that they don't have to abandon their IT system that is like lagging behind them so that they can just accomplish what they need to get done. We got it done. It was a special day. We have some testimonials here from our most senior stakeholders at the time, Commander Goulet specifically saying that the Kessel Run programmers were able to keep up with his mission. And it was something that we really prided ourselves on as a moment to prove that within the defense sector, you can build software, you can continuously deliver, you can own your full path to production, and you can keep up with changing mission needs. It's not being done everywhere, and we beat ourselves up all the time because we're working with clients that don't know how to push this type of continuous delivery into their processes. But it was done, and we were successful, and it can be done again. So for all of the projects we're working on as Risers, let's stay hopeful, let's own this, and let's know that we can replicate this type of success across all of government. All right, for a bit of a zoomed out view to capture some of the momentum that was here, I turn it over to Andy, who was involved in much more global operations.
Thanks, guys.